Ms. Chandili.
Nice to meet you.
You are sending a petition.
We have called them earlier to inform the Chief Executive Officer of the Law Society to come down to accept our petition. Today we mark the Human Rights Day along with lawyers and bar associations around the world that affectionately include the Bar Council of Malaysia. We record with dismay that Human Rights Day is a non-event to our Law Society. We earnestly hope that along with the Law Society's major events like the dinner and dance and bench and bar games, Human Rights Day will find its way in our calendar in the coming years. On this day, we call upon the Law Society of Singapore to stand firmly on our mission to uphold the rule of law in maintaining a strong and independent bar as contained in our mission statement published on our website. It has been 20 years since the Legal Profession Act was amended by the state to muzzle the Law Society from commenting on existing and proposed legislation unless its views were expressly solicited. This oppressive legislation not only stifles the Law Society from making an active contribution to the lawmaking process, but also takes away our vital role as a vanguard of rights of the people. It is time that we break this 20-year silence in speaking up for our rights to speak up. Why we have chosen these six proposals to the Law Society? Of course, you can ask questions later, and of course, Law Society will also raise questions with us. I mean, this is an important day for us when we present this petition to the President, and we have a Director of Law Society to witness our presentation. Of course, it doesn't stop us from you also to raise some issues on this if you feel that you want to raise. Now, the first issue is why campaign for the repeal of the section in the Legal Profession Act? Because we would recall that in 1986, the President of Law Society and the then Solicitor General of Singapore, Mr. Francis Yao, happened to be the President of the Law Society. That was the time when Law Society was commenting on the proposed amendment to the Newspapers and Printing Presses Act. And the proposed, when the Law Society was criticizing the amendment to the Newspapers the Act which was passed, the government held a committee of inquiry against the Law Society, and the lawyers were called into question on the fact that they have raised this issue. And in the subsequent months, we saw that the Legal Profession Act was amended, and Section 37 was amended then to say that basically Law Society cannot comment on public legislation and proposed legislation unless its views were expressly solicited. So that takes away our fundamental right, our constitutional role that we play to protect the independence of the bar, and as well as the strength in which we operate. Now, the second proposal is look into ways to strengthen the independence of the judiciary, and the question is, we said especially at the subordinate court. Why the subordinate court as opposed to the High Court? We are not saying that the judiciary is not independent to that extent. What we are saying is that we would like to strengthen the independence of the judiciary, especially at the subordinate court level. The appointment of judges there, they don't enjoy security of tenure like until the age of 65 in the High Court. And also, the appointment constantly comes from the Attorney General's chambers. It's very disconcerting for lawyers when we are representing cases and you have a DPP on the opposing side, and you might, of course, ruffle the feathers, and the next month he or she is appointed to the judiciary. So the next month he is a judge, the following month is a DPP. It also creates a certain sense of fear among lawyers to effectively present a case in court. Number 3, set up a subcommittee on human rights under the Law Society and conduct human rights training for lawyers. We have in Malaysia a subcommittee on human rights, and we have even in Thailand and all these countries in ASEAN. We don't have to go to the European countries. So I do not know why Singapore takes such a long time to we are not even talking about the National Human Rights Commission here, to have a subcommittee on human rights. But I understand that the Law Society is looking into the matter. They might want to call it a Constitutional Law Committee, but we would like it to be called a Human Rights Committee. and don't run away from human rights because it's not a dirty word. And 4, submit an annual report on human rights violations. You know that we have at the IBA conference raised the issues of rule of law, and as a follow-up to that, as well as we have a human rights institute under the IBA. We do not have to crosswalk the government on these issues, but respectfully we can do our respective role in pertaining to those issues affecting, like for example, human rights violation, that Malaysian Bar Council and other bodies actually raise all these issues. We can document this and independently submit to the Human Rights Institute of the IBA. And 5th, the establishment of a judicial complaints mechanism in addressing complaints by lawyers. I will address that first. Currently, for example, I was suspended last year. I'm not justifying my act. I may be right in some issues, I may be wrong in some issues. But what is important is that lawyers and judges, we are both we are officers of the court. We are like two wheels to move forward this carriage of justice. But where do lawyers make complaints, if they have any complaints against legal officers and judges? Of course, you can say that we can write to the Prime Minister's office or Ministry of Law and all that, but there is no formal body of complaint mechanism. So therefore, lawyers are again kept under a leash, a control, submissive and passive, and cowed into this passivity. And this is a statement from the New York Bar Association that said that Singapore lawyers are cowed into passivity. I think it's important that even member of public, for example, turns up in court and the person has been badly, because you know that a lot of, in fact the Chief Justice himself have commented that people are turning up for appeal on their own in the High Court. Previously we don't have this situation without any lawyers. So we need to also protect the public all the more. So where do they turn to? They also must have a recourse. In America, there is actually, public also can make a complaint against judges, you know. So no one is perfect here. Not we are encouraging complaints against judges or lawyers or anything of that sort. It is just to have a mechanism for fairness and transparency. Last, of course, the ASEAN countries have moved on to set up the National Human Rights Commission, and Singapore has not, as one of the founding members. So today is Human Rights Day, and it's an important event all around the world for lawyers and bar councils. You know, the Malaysian lawyers are marching and they have been arrested. We of course record with deepest disquiet that they should be released, and that we also of course condemn the action by the government on these issues. But we would also like to stand in solidarity with those lawyers, and we would like to hand over the petition to our Director of Law Society, and we would like to thank the Law Society for kindly coming and accepting this petition.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring that to the council, and then we'll come back with a response. But I can't actually comment on this council decision.
Can we have your name or your name card?
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So you approach a lot of lawyers personally?
Not a lot, I wouldn't say a lot, okay? A few. Among those, we think that who are a bit gung-ho. About, I would say, 15.
15. So all of them refuse to sign.
Yeah. But I won't disclose the names, of course, you know. Yeah.
So you are...
No, they didn't say they don't want to sign, but they feel that, you know, in the next year, the following year, they'll be willing to sign. Not
next
now.
Year. Why next year?
Why don't want to vote for the elections government this year? Why don't want to change the press freedom this year? Everything next year. What?
Next year they will say next year.
No, I suppose you know that they also would like to see a response to this. Maybe you know they feel more comfortable.
I would say some people are not ready yet.
Yeah, ready yet.
Hopefully in time to come when we push the boundary.
Actually, this is not even a boundary. You know?
Yeah.
This is ordinary. We don't talk about boundary and big words like. You know?
I'll call this an imaginary boundary.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
How optimistic are you that your petition will be considered and be accepted?
And the fact that the director has turned up, so that itself is a welcoming move. And the fact that they have stepped out of the premises was a decision made by them instantly here. So that's also a move forward to, I think they are taking this issues here, at least to receive this letter with some seriousness.
Can I have the last